have reached the end of another week here in the 2018 session in Topeka. A lot of things happening this week, and you can tell the legislative session is kind of picking up a little bit of steam, and obviously we have a lot to go, but some notable things happened this week. We in the House Appropriations Committee, we did get a update or a report on the mental health task force that has been meeting and looking at the whole situation with our mental health issues here in the state of Kansas. Many of us feel that we've kind of gotten into a crisis situation, especially the model we find ourselves in right now. We have many inmates in prison that actually have various levels of mental illness and probably need treatment more than they need to be incarcerated. All one has to do is look at your county jail population throughout the state of Kansas. I talked to many law enforcement agents here that were in Topeka this week, and especially your county sheriffs are experiencing an overload of patients that they feel, or inmates I should say, that they feel should be getting some sort of outpatient treatment or at least be in a facility. So I think the task force actually is aware of that. One thing that some of the members of the Appropriations Committee would have liked to have seen was some more specific recommendations. So they were asked to go back and look over their recommendations that they had made, which I think total about 26, and ask them to kind of be specific. That way that'll allow the Appropriations Committee maybe to tie some money for funding that we can start implementing some of the recommendations that they've made. Also big news this week was the governor pulling the CanCare 2.0 program and putting it on hold. As you know, our Medicaid privatized Medicaid services here in the state of Kansas, known as CanCare 1.0, has met up with a lot of criticism over the years. I've recently met with some hospital administrators that talked about a lot of delays in getting information, paperwork overloads, and so forth. So I think the governor was hearing the same thing, and in reaction to that, what he has done is actually put the CanCare 2.0 on hold until they get things sorted out with the first CanCare program. And so we'll probably see a lot of attention, with our Health and Human Services Committee looking at the current Medicaid program. Transparency has become a real issue, especially as it pertains to some of the contracts the state has entered into. Earlier this week, the governor had delayed the vote on the Lansing prison expansion or building project with Core Civic. Some people questioned the contract and how that was going about, how we went about putting that together. And so the governor pulled that. They did some changes to it. A lot of people fear that this is just leading us down the road to privatizing our prison system, which would probably end up costing more. I think the state can do a lot better job and run the prison more efficient. This is a $362 million project. It's set up as a lease purchase program, so Core Civic would construct this prison in place of the old one that is literally falling apart, and the state would then enter into a lease purchase over a number of years and eventually own that prison. As many of you know, the governor's appointment to his ambassadorship was approved by the Senate committee this week, and then earlier this week it went before the entire Senate. Narrowly passed, 50 to 49, took the vice president to break that vote. The word is that the governor will announce his resignation formally on January 31st, and of course that sets the stage for Lieutenant Governor Collier to be sworn in. No word yet as to who he might have as his lieutenant governor, or even when his swearing-in ceremony will take place. But nonetheless, the governor will be resigning at 3 p.m. on January 31st, and then at some point be heading to Washington, D.C. to take up his duties there. We will be hearing a lot more as the weeks go because the Appropriations Committee is starting to have hearings. The first part of the session here, we were mainly having informational, presentations, but we'll start crunching some numbers here and start working on a budget. In fact, I think next week in the Appropriations Committee we'll have a actual kind of updated version of the budget that we will be working on. So until then, we'll be, visiting with our constituents as legislators go home to their districts, and we'll be back at it again on Monday.